Says we're connecting. What are you doing?
Good. I mean, for someone who's I always call myself a highly high functioning. I don't know how you feel about the word crazy, but that's the word I use to describe myself. And so, yeah, I'm doing okay. For me, I'm doing okay.
I'm glad to hear it. Hey, Julian. My friend Julian Sanchez is here.
Hello.
We're just chatting, so y'all ask us questions or
Yes,
give
please.
us commentary. We don't have a guest this time. Last time was so good, like
Yeah.
shockingly. We had Christopher Pepper on.
Yep.
We should have Julian join the pod.
Where are you, Julian and Michelle, coming from? I can't.
Julian's in DC, last I checked. Hey Emma, what's up? Have you read anything good this week about gender or things?
Them?
No, you. Anyone.
No,
Anyone.
no. So I'll throw this out there. It's kind of lame, but so I'm watching both The Gilded Age,
Love it.
and they have feminist themes and suffragist movement, and taking your own life and what a woman can choose to do with her life. Did you watch the last episode?
I need to restart my HBO subscription.
Okay.
I watched the last season.
Okay. Well, there is a family that is loosely based on the Vanderbilts, and Consuelo Vanderbilt is a dollar bride, a dollar princess, a buccaneer, whatever you want to call. She is new money in the United States, and she is forced to marry um, a noble person in England. And that was not an uncommon thing. It was actually a phenomenon. New money people in the United States who weren't accepted by society would marry off their daughters to noble people men, not they weren't me. And so that's an interesting storyline that I've always kind of been interested in. And then I also watched Anne with an E, which is the most modern take on I mean, it's still set in the same 1800s, but it's Anne of Green Gables. But they bring in, I think, the themes about women and choosing their own path in life are stronger. They bring in LGBT issues that I haven't read the original book, nor have I seen the old series, but I can't imagine it was as explicit. So I have thought a lot about that, about, you know, despite the limitations, at least I was born in a time that I had the vote,
Yeah.
and where
Yeah.
I wasn't required to be escorted by a male family member all the time, or where my money didn't belong to me, it only belonged to my husband. And so, you know, even a sappy period drama with lots of drippy, amazing costumes and chandeliers, I think do put our lifetime in a perspective and make statements. Of course, if they're produced in the 2020s, then obviously the statements are stronger than they probably were originally in novels of the same period. But so I did think about gender and roles and in watching those two things.
I love that. Yeah, I think the Buccaneers phenomenon is so interesting because it's like we have this concept, which isn't totally crazy, that the United States is a meritocracy, and so it's not supposed to matter. We're not supposed to have an aristocratic class. But when you look into it, obviously it did matter enough to prompt these marriages. And it's funny too, because these noble families, they would marry into American families because they have these huge estates to maintain and not enough income to maintain them.
Yeah. And they couldn't keep their status unless they had the castles and the property.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah.
I started to watch Buccaneers, which was, like, about that phenomenon, and I was very excited, but I ended up it was, like, kind of trying to be modern, but it's
Yeah,
a
it was
hard line to walk.
it there is an older, um I think it might have been a movie, I'm not sure, a series that was maybe produced in the '80s or '90s that's a little truer to the novel, and, I did also try to watch the more modern Buccaneers, and it is a little bit kind of like, Catherine the Great with one of those Fanning sisters, where it it has all these kind of, uh, anachronisms and stuff that are kind of cute in a way, but they're kind of weird.
I think if you're gonna do it, it's gotta serve some purpose, and I think The Great does it really well because it serves the purpose of being really funny,
Mhm,
but and or, like, I think, is it called Versailles? The Sofia Coppola, or maybe it's her take on Marie Antoinette, where the anachronisms, like,
mm,
create this, like, very beautiful scenario, and I
mhm.
think that works, but if the anachronisms aren't accomplishing anything, then they're just kinda discordant.
Yeah, yeah. I did kind of feel that way about that because I had liked the book and the earlier adaptations of the Buccaneers.
Julian says he's been watching Los Abogados. Sorry, I'm sure I murdered that. Fantastic series about women fighting fascism in Franco, Spain. That sounds awesome.
Yeah.
I've
But
been watching Love Island.
yeah, well, I how is it going? Because to me, those kinds of reality shows are like the I have not watched that, nor have I watched any of the others, but they seem like the just like let's just push misogyny out into the future 100 years and keep adopting the same sort of horrible assumptions about men and women and their relationships. I could be wrong, I've never watched it, but that's
No, I don't think that's wrong at all. I think it's interesting. I'm telling myself that I'm getting a cross cultural education because I'm watching the UK version
mhm,
of Love Island, and it is interesting to see the differences. I haven't watched a whole lot of either. This is my first season of either, and I've watched like 36 episodes or some shit of the UK one. It's a lot. Um, and like 5 of the American one, but 2 things that I noticed right away, and they were filmed at different times, so it could be a time issue or it could be just
mhm.
quirks of these particular seasons, but, like, with the UK one, all the women are, like, barefoot or in high heels the whole time. On the American one, they wear flat shoes and heels, they mix it up. They're in the British one, they're always wearing thong bikinis the whole time. Sometimes they'll wear shorts on the American one. Um, so I don't know what that's about in terms of gender, if it's like it's kind of a weird mix because it's like they're dressed more sexily, but the show itself is way more prudish. Like the
The
people
UK
act
version?
yeah, there's like they make a deal about kissing each other like the Americans do about sex. Like in the American one, it was like first episode you like saw like boob grabbing and like I haven't yet seen it in 36 episodes of the British one.
Yeah, I can't it's sort of like maybe we've talked about, like, don't know, like, what in between, like, social drinking is because my father died of alcoholism, and I was married to a Mormon who never had a drink in his entire life, and he's about to turn 70, and so I think I feel the same way because of my sexual background and also, Mormonism, where I have no idea. Like I never had a one night stand. I never just met up people, hooked up. So I don't the idea that I would meet someone and then they would just grab my boob, like, is just I'm just like I can't imagine a situation where I would think that that was an okay thing. But I realize that I come from like a limited background in that way, having had two sexual partners in my entire life, both of whom was married to. So that's a little bit hard. I have no point of reference. So that's kind of
To me, the funniest thing is that they have to couple up, and coupling up basically just means you share a bed. Um, and I'm like, I've had sex with way more people than I've shared a bed with, like, to sleep. I would hate that. I would try to be single just to have a bed to myself. And they're in a big room. It's like the worst.
there are multiple beds in a big room.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
they've got like queen size beds and you have to pair up with someone to sleep with them, but you're not in a private room. It's like a
And there are
dormitory style,
cameras.
orphanage style.
It's a dorm style situation, and there's night vision cameras. So, like, even in the night, they can see what you're doing.
I'm still not enticed to watch.
No, no, I would not recommend,
And I'm
but
a little
it's
bit
nice.
nervous that my algorithm has picked this up and that the next time I watch Reels or TikTok, I'll end up with clips.
You'll slowly be brought in.
Yeah, I don't that's wild.
You know, speaking of, like, women having chaperones all the time, um, I don't know if you saw, but today, or yesterday, l do you know who Lauren Southern is?
No.
I envy you, but I'm gonna make your life worse and tell you. She she is a alt-right influencer whose major thing has been, as far as I can tell, opposition to immigration, and, um, but also a lot of anti-feminism. And she's just published a memoir, and people have gone through and, like, pulled out portions of it. I guess she's published portions of it as well, for free, but if you wanna read the whole thing, you gotta buy the book, and she accuses Andrew Tate of, choking and raping her. And I feel like, obviously, like, sexual repression doesn't work to like, misogyny and sexual repression are often posited as, like, "Oh, these are things that are supposed to protect women." They don't. Measurably, like, we know that they don't. At the same time, I feel like there's this, naivete that a lot of young women are, like, bringing into the world about the dangers that exist, that I don't think is ideal either. Um,
Good point, Julia.
what did Julian say? You know, the simulation writers are getting lazy when the racist influencer is named Southern. And she's Canadian, weirdly enough.
Ah,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. The whole thing reminds me, I don't know if this connection's gonna make sense to anybody else, but, um, of the Babe article, where the woman talked about having gone on a date with Aziz Ansari and, like, him having been, like, depending on your interpretation of what happened, a cad or, a person who perpetrated assault. I lean toward the cad end of the spectrum. But, like, I went out into the world with the understanding that, like, a lot of people on Twitter are like, "Okay, Lauren Southern, like, you got drunk with him, you let him, like, sleep in the bed with you, you consented to kissing him." And, and they're saying, "Well, then you've consented to whatever he wants to do to you next," which I think is, like, absolutely insane, like, absolutely not. But, like, I was brought up to expect that if I got drunk with a man and anything else, whatever, like, that I was putting myself in danger because, like, a lot of
well, because it was your responsibility to control his behavior.
That
Right, I mean, you were
that
raised in an environment that
yeah,
it was your job to control that, so
right.
you are the one who pushed, opened the door, right?
Yes, there's that, and I don't know, I think as much as conservatives, like, hate women, I think they hate men more because in that message as well is that, like, all men are rapists, all men are a threat to you. You have to just, like, never be alone with one that you don't want inside you. Like, don't make yourself vulnerable around men in any way. Don't get drunk, don't be alone, don't give him any hint that you're interested in him sexually, like, all
Mhm.
these things. Which obviously I think was problematic, but, like, did keep me and I think a lot of women safe in a way to have that, like, level of awareness of the realities of the existence of danger. And I don't know what the right answer is, but I just think, like, probably somewhere in between. Like, if you go out and you think that, like, there's no danger, it puts you in danger. Um, and obviously, like, then when you add, like, probably don't be even around, much less alone, with a man who self-identifies as anti-feminist.
Mhm.
That's that's probably inadvisable. But yeah, I don't know. And obviously, like, anytime you talk about any of this, it's like it's easy to misinterpret as like, oh, you're victim blaming,
Mhm.
you're saying it's her fault. And it's like, it's not what I'm saying. It's not her fault. It's not anybody's fault who is victimized by another person. And um, I don't know.
But so let me see. So there's a couple things, right? It's a woman's responsibility in these high demand religions, evangelical, super purity culture things. But on the other hand, especially if you believe that everyone is signing up for the same sort of sexual morality code, then maybe you could put yourself in a naive position to believe that if you say no, someone will believe you and agree. Or that maybe you're enticing them, but once you bring it to their point, bring it to their attention that maybe you've enticed them, that they'll stop because you both have the same objective, the same goal, the same. No one wants this. No one in that environment has signed up to. They've all signed up to sexual purity, even if the woman, it's her role to kind of make it happen. She doesn't expect to be forced to do something she doesn't want to. So I guess I'm trying to that naivete part of it. It's kind of double, right? You're scared and you think everyone might be evil, but on the other hand, you think that someone who signs up for that and who has those who perpetrates those messages, of purity messages, would stop if you told them to. Even if you put the blame on yourself.
Yeah, I think a lot of what I was a lot of what was implied is that men can't. Like, men don't have self-control.
Yeah.
That's why you have to dress in a certain way and comport yourself in a certain way because men can't be trusted and because men don't have agency. Like, that's like you said, that's your responsibility. Um, I think one thing that, like, unites what I think about this, and there's a there was a good article by Anne Helen Peterson today about feminists being tired, feminism being exhausted, and the difference between, like, choice feminism and I don't know, different kinds of feminism. Um, and that's like, and I made what I hope was a funny post about, I have to post pictures of myself in my underwear to get attention, and I shouldn't have to, but here we are, to get subscribers to my newsletter. There's a lot of talk in feminism about, like, anti-capitalism, anti-hierarchy, consent, and it's like, I feel like it's to be successful and as an individual and as a movement, you have to hold two things in your mind: what should be and what is. Like, what should be is that nobody would ever rape you. What should be is that we all understand what consent is and believe in it and make it reality. What should be is, maybe capitalism and hierarchy shouldn't exist, but like maybe it shouldn't matter what I look like in my underwear. But here we are. you know, None of those things are true. Um,
Well, and even like, even if even if we believe the some sort of ideal world, right? We still hold those same, right? That sex sells, right? So, and you're an attractive woman. So you can use that,
Thank you.
whether it is what you would want in a perfect world or not. I've spent time in my career placating, not compromising like myself sexually or anything, but if there is just a jerk, and I know that he thinks he's better because he's an old man or because he was so and so in an organization, and then we're working and I'm trying to get the best product out of his work, and I know he likes Dr. Pepper and is a complete snackaholic, then when I go to the break room, I'm going to get a diet Dr. Pepper for him and a bag of M&Ms, right? And I'm not doing that because I think I'm less than him, because I want to encourage his boorish, I'm so great behavior, but I have something I have to get done. And what I have to get done is to get him to cooperate with this group and to not be argumentative with me every time I say something just because I'm an Asian woman. So I bring him M&Ms and Diet Dr. Pepper. Is that what I want to do? I really want him to tell him to fuck off. He's no better than I am. He's no important. And his role in this room and on this team is no better than anybody else's. But I have to get him to behave and to participate with the team. So that's what I end up doing.
I feel like there's this exactly. I feel like there's this silliness in feminism that I don't see in other movements where it's like, well, the Anne Helen Peterson article, she's like, well, there's four kinds of feminists. There's a feminist, political compass quadrant, and you're on a spectrum in terms of your participation in and success in the status quo. And it's like, okay, let's say you've got a Marxist and they absolutely hate capitalism. And so they just steadfastly refuse to do anything that capitalism would want them to do. So they, you know, don't shower, don't cut their hair, don't get a job, don't, and it's like that would be stupid. That's not that you're just going to ruin your own life and you're not going to capitalism doesn't care. Um so it is with feminism.
Mhm.
It doesn't, whether you get your boss a snack has nothing to do with whether the patriarchy continues, but whether it has a big impact on whether you continue to be employed.
Oh, just for the record, he was not my boss. No, I'm joking. He wasn't. He was just a teammate. But yeah, and I have spent time doing that, like people teasing me. Like I've had bosses or people who were a higher level, but who maybe weren't my boss. And my family, I would just get so button pushed. And my family would say, you got to get Herb's permission. He's your boss, blah, blah, blah. And I would just walk around just ticked off all the time. Herb is not my boss. Herb is not my boss. Because of that. So but to your point, is that just that changing misogyny and sexism, whether I, do a nice thing just to get my way or.
I wouldn't, sure, it's upholding it, but then if you don't get your coworker a snack because he's male, you're still letting the patriarchy determine your choice. Your conception of the patriarchy determine your choices either way. So I don't I don't know. I think there's this weird, it's like a fetishization of individualism, even from the supposed collectivists who are like, oh, girl bossing is not real feminism because it's not like a collective effort. But it's like, well, me refusing to take Ozempic because I'm going to fight fat phobia by staying fat, like, that's just an individual choice that mostly affects me as well. Like, that's not a collective effort either. So, seems to me like the thing to do would be for the people who want to accomplish change to acquire power
Mhm.
and collaborate versus just fuck themselves over in a way that they hope somehow fucks over the system that they're trying to dismantle, if that makes sense.
Oh, I think about that every day. I mean, I walk around the house going, "What the fuck is going on? What the fuck is going on? How can this still be happening?" And knowing that me not shopping at a particular store or me, um, it doesn't make a difference. For one, we still have, you know, 3 and half years before we have another election, a general election, right? So, any kind of thing I can do is not gonna keep Trump from being president.
Yeah.
And even with local elections, I feel like it's so hard to there isn't a straight line usually between any action I take and change in our country. And that coming to grips with that is something that I think maybe happens as you get older and less idealistic, or some people just always know that. Um, but it's something, every day I kind of think about, okay, what should I do today? What can I do today? And I've pretty much decided, can't really do it.
We're doing it. We are
Yeah.
defeating patriarchy right now,
Yeah.
doing this. I do think I think because I have such a strong bent toward preference for working independently, it really benefits me to like overcorrect for that and be like, okay, build community, build relationships,
Mhm.
work as a team.
Yeah. Well, and I think you're right. I think s having a voice, speaking out, you and your writing, I think does make a difference. And we know people who, uh, were not politically involved, didn't have an issue, didn't care about it, never thought about feminism, who have changed because of the political situation or something they've read or a conversation they had. And I'm certain that conversations that you've had with people have changed people's minds and helped them view the world differently, and even yourself, right? 20
Oh yeah.
20 years ago, your perspective was very different than it is today.
Yeah. I mean, that's something we both definitely have in common,
Mhm,
having radically changed our minds on pretty important questions.
mhm.
Yeah. It's funny. I think that there's like a narcissism, you know, it you get in trouble either way when you underestimate or overestimate how important you are. Like, it's hard to keep it right sized.
Yeah, that's
Um,
probably true.
okay, Julian mentioned Myrmidon theory, fiercely loyal and unstoppable ant people. I've never heard of this in my life, or maybe I don't know. I feel like I have heard about ant people, but I don't. I'm gonna have to look this up after more thoroughly. Look this up after the call. Do you know about this?
I don't even know. I no idea. Is there a way we can add Julian so he can explain it to us? That's one of the things I've noticed is that when people make comments just written, you want to ask more questions and open up a dialogue about that, and I have no idea at all what that means.
Yeah, I really would love to do like a call-in show. I think that would be fun. I don't know how to do that technologically.
Is that you, Julian?
Julian, can you hear us?
Sure,
Oh my
sure, yeah.
god.
Hey, good to see you. So the quick version, the quick version of Mermaid Theory is so yeah, it is based on the like Greek mythology, um, like ant soldiers who were like mindless ant people who were who were like an unstoppable army. And I think it's Susan Bradmiller, but I'm not sure. But the idea of Mermaid Theory is essentially like um, sexual assailants and rapists function unwittingly to support patriarchal structures because the idea that like, hey, there are these terrible guys out there who will assault you and like behave badly towards you creates a structure where uh, you know, good guys can say, well, look, I need to walk you home. I need to protect you. You need me to be here to look after you and protect you because there are these terrible guys out there. And, if you walk home alone, uh, well, one of them will find you and take advantage of you. So, you better have me walk home with you. I mean, that's oversimplifying, but like the idea is the existence of rapists, basically, um, functions to kind of create a justificatory structure where, like, well, women need to be dependent on men because of these other bad men who are going to take advantage of them. So you better rely on the good men who are going to protect you. And that, and so this sort of in this way, um, the the bad man allows the quote, kind of in scare quotes, good men, um, to assert a position of dominance because they're necessary to protect you from them. And like, there's not like a conspiracy, like, or at least consciously, but the
Mhm.
dynamic is that the existence of those people allows a level of patriarchy to pretend that it is existing for the benefit of women. Um, so that's the short version, and I will back out now and let you guys continue your
Thank you.
conversation. Um,
But it's so wild to me that it still exists. I think every one of these weeks, I get to the point to say, "Oh my gosh, is that really still happening in 2025?" But then I think about it, and then I think, and sometimes I think, well, it's because I'm old. But I know young people I would call young men in their 20s and 30s who would still offer to walk me to the car, in a parking garage or whatever. And I hadn't thought about that way, but that makes perfect sense, right? And like Julian said, it's not a conspiracy, but it's a subtle social training, maybe, that we inculcate into boys and men to be gentlemen. But it's based on that assumption that there are bad people out there who are going to hurt you, who are stronger than you, um, and that keeps that. Wow.
I think it's really, really interesting. I think there's a lot to it. I would say, just to refine it a bit more, the Epstein thing is so interesting for so many reasons, but I really like that Freddie DeBoer wrote today about how we want to believe that Jeffrey Epstein is what sexual abuse of children looks like.
Mhm.
That it's these strange and powerful men abducting or alluring, you know, young virginal women and, abusing them, when the reality is more than 90% of instances of sexual abuse of minors is perpetrated by people the children know, uh,
Mhm.
parents, uncles, pastors, teachers, babysitters, coaches, Sunday school
Trusted people in
teachers.
their lives who have had some sort of relationship
Access,
with them. Yeah.
who have access to these
Yeah.
children, yeah. Um, and I think there are a bunch of reasons why we want to believe in stranger danger, and we don't want to believe that the men around our children are the ones who put them in the greatest danger. It's too scary to contemplate the reality. It's a very frightening reality. Um, and it once you realize who does the abusing, it completely inverts the justification for male dominance. Male dominance is justified if the threat is from outside, from
Mhm.
other men. Male dominance is implicated if the threat is from the men who are dominant.
Mhm.
In that case, if the dominant men are the threat to children's safety, then the obvious answer is for men to not be dominant, like for men to not be in charge, for men to not be able to tell their victims not to tell anyone, and that they should be ashamed of what happened, and um, all these things that facilitate abuse. So we need to believe, to maintain the status quo gender hierarchy, that the threat is out there.
Mhm. Yeah, people and despite the actual empirical evidence to the contrary.
He points out how Freddie points out how child sexual abuse is both um over punished and under punished. That people will want to put pedophiles through the wood chipper, and will create whole moral panics about satanic daycare providers. But you'd think if if protecting children from sexual abuse was a priority, the first thing you'd want to do before anything else is like, well, who's abusing them?
But it seems clear that in most cases, obviously there are parents and scout leaders and you know relatives who are put in prison. But and again, I haven't done the research, but it seems to me that we are much more likely as a society to protect the institutions. So protect the institution of the family, to protect the relationship between the child and the parent or the uncle, or protect the relationship and the institution of the church or the school or whoever. It seems very clear that we minimize those things and give people lots of chances. And even, there's plenty of cases where women stay in relationships with their husbands who are either the father or the stepfather or whatever to a child that they've abused, because the institutions are so important to us.
1000%. Yeah, absolutely.
And
So
I
it's
don't.
like
Yeah.
it's like a thing we're willing to do anything to prevent, except anything that might threaten an institution.
Yeah, and I mean, I can't. I don't know. I think, and people don't like to disrupt their own lives.
Sure.
If you're the one who burns down an institution or ends a marriage or exposes something that then even in 2025, that brings ruin on the family, which I'm using that because I've been watching these fairy dramas. But I don't think it's that much. Honestly, I don't think it's that much different, right? No one wants to reveal that they are in a relationship with someone that would hurt your child. No one wants to believe that they belong to an institution where they would protect the institution over your child. It's hard to expose those things. It, in a theoretical way, maybe it's not. In an article as a journalist, maybe it's not. But when it's your life that gets blown up and your vulnerability, and you're the one who has to change where you live, what church you go to, who you're in a relationship with, all those things, I mean, those are hard things to do, even if they're the right thing to do.
Absolutely. Of course. It's horrible to think it's possible. Just that. Just
Yeah.
could he have?
Yeah.
And this is where it builds on itself, because it seems less this fact, I don't even know if it's fact, but I heard this and it made sense and it stuck with me. I think there was an Atlantic article that came out a while ago. I've probably already talked about it because I'm so obsessed with it. But it was about how uh, all the 23andMe stuff was revealing how common incest actually is.
We haven't
Um,
talked we haven't talked about that. No.
oh, okay. Yeah. And I don't know if it was in that article, but there's an anecdote that Freud was having so many women come to him and say, "My father raped me," that he just he thought there was some hysteria he thought they were making it up. He's like, "There's no way
That this
this
could be happening.
many." Yeah, this could be happening in this frequently. And now we have, 100 years later, we have DNA, and it's like, no, it's that frequent. Just how loath we all are.
So
It's not like
children are finding out that they're, I guess, adults are finding out. So explain to me what the discoveries, that they're finding out that the person who thought was a grandfather was actually their biological father and had abused their mother, or is that
they're finding out that they are products of incest at some point in their family tree, is
okay?
my understanding. Like at some point,
Yeah,
and like that's
a sibling, or I mean, not their sibling, but their parent's sibling, or their, yeah. I'm just trying to
something.
figure out how.
You you should read it. I didn't follow the science that closely. I was more interested in like the I don't know, the
Yeah,
psychology, the
yeah.
sociology, the fact that we're all in such denial, and like, I'm forever just like, let's wake up. And but yeah, I just feel like we're still in that place of like, we just don't want to believe. And I was going to say, like, it's not like Freud was super naive about human nature and like our
Mhm.
capacity for evil.
Yeah.
um
But I would say, like, even so, let's say the idea 30 years ago that there would be some, and we have talked about this, some $99 retail way to get so much information about your genetic roots I mean, that's crazy.
it's super interesting.
And to have it reveal so many things, right? About paternity, about who our parents are, where our relatives are. I mean, even connecting a person and solving a cold case, right? The idea that we could just do that with the $99 test that people give each other for Christmas, and then it upends your life because you discover that. I mean, I have several friends who have discovered that their father wasn't their father. In most cases, it's a father wasn't a father. But, I have a friend who discovered that her mother had an affair with her uncle, and her dad's brother is actually her biological father, not her dad. I mean, there's, stuff like that that upends people's lives, and that was in a consensual relationship. But what happens when you discover that it's not a consensual relationship that created you?
At least she chose the closest living biological match to the supposed father. It's not your dad, but as close as humanly
Yeah,
possible. That's wild.
yeah,
I told my sister she was adopted when we were little.
why do siblings do that? That's so mean.
It is really mean. I don't know. um, she found out before 23andMe that she's not. It's so weird too that we're so, like you said, like ashamed. We want to keep it all a secret, which I think also goes back to the victim blaming aspect.
Yeah, I had, so I have my husband has a relative, like an aunt and an uncle who had, before they were married, I think had a child and gave it up
Scandalous.
for adoption. And then they got married and went on to have other children who were 100% biologically related. And this person, um, my father-in-law ends up on a list of people he's connected to, and they knew who this guy was who had been adopted out. They knew what the situation was, but and the biological mother she didn't want to have anything to do with. She still, after, 70 years, was too ashamed to. And the same thing happened with I have a cousin, first cousin I never knew until about 5 years ago when we matched. And if you've watched us, you know that I was like immediately emailing, I'm your cousin, I'll tell you all about our family. And but on the other side, his biological mother is still living. She's 100 years old, and he's found cousin on that side, and she has refused to meet him or talk to him. And, he's 75 years old. No one's gonna hold, but the shame that she feels, is still so great. And, you know, I just hope every day that I end up, my parents were in their mid-30s when they got together, and so every day I'm just hoping I'll get some match, and there'll be some half sibling I didn't know about who's, you know, 5 years older than I am, and I'm gonna be calling them up and saying, "I'm on the next plane to LA. Can't wait to meet you." So, it's hard for
Yeah.
me, but I'm a little bit.
And I guess I don't know. I don't know if it's hard to say if it's the shame of having sex outside of marriage or giving your kid up for adoption.
Yeah.
But to me, giving your kid up for adoption is like one of the most admirable things a person can do. Like, it's so unselfish, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, Everything in your body is just like telling you to hang on to this child, regardless of whether you feel like you can give them a good life. But
Mhm.
you say like, no, I think these people can give you a better life. I'm gonna sacrifice for you. But not everybody feels that way. A lot of people, I don't know. I do think it's funny that the same people who are like, children are the greatest blessing in the world, and there's nothing better you could do with your life, are the same people who are like, women should have to pay for having sex by being saddled with a child for the rest of their lives. Like, is this a blessing or a punishment? Like, I don't
Or the
understand.
people who send their daughters away and keep it a secret.
Oh, yeah.
Now, I don't know if that's still happening in 2025, but when I was in the 70s, I hate that, but in back in the olden time, in the 70s, they were still, there would be occasionally a girl who would show up at our church, and she would be staying with a family in our congregation, and she'd be from somewhere else, maybe Utah or somewhere, I don't know. And she would stay there, have her baby, it would be placed for adoption, and then she'd go back to her she'd go back to high school and the story would be she was staying with relatives, or she had a summer nanny job or, something like that. And that is to me, if you really believe that about children and babies, then I don't know, why would you shame your child? On the other hand, I I would be and have said, I've 4 daughters, um, to one of my children who had a boyfriend who was Catholic and said he was against abortion. I said, "Okay, then there's one solution to this problem. You She doesn't get pregnant because if she gets pregnant, she is not having a baby." Now, could I have actually made that happen when she was a teenager? Probably not. Probably no doctor is gonna, if she had decided that she did want to keep a pregnancy, then probably the doctor would say, she could make that decision herself. And thank goodness there was no situation where, I was trying to get her on a plane and take her to terminate a pregnancy. But it is odd to me that families who believe that children are so important would turn their back on their own child when they are having a child. And I do think that I did have a hard time understanding all that because I grew up in a Hispanic area of Los Angeles, and so most of my friends were Catholic, and I couldn't understand as a Mormon because Mormons have a kind of a hierarchy of sin versus all sin being equal, right? Taking a penny candy from the corner market is a sin just as sex outside of marriage is a sin. I don't understand that. So when I had friends who were Catholic who wouldn't use birth control because they were Catholic, but who were having sex outside of marriage, it didn't square in my head at all because my head said, if you're going to choose to have sex outside of marriage, which is a sin, at least don't get pregnant. you know, that was kind of my view as a teenager.
And go ahead and go on a murder spree while you're at it, because you're already
Yeah,
sinning.
that's right. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I think it
Yeah.
Yeah, I still probably would say whether you think it's sin or just bad behavior, there are levels of bad behavior as far as I can see, right?
Truly. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, I feel like the Southern Baptist churches, that was the doctrine, all sin is the same, there's no hierarchy of sins, but we talked a lot more about gay sex than about beating your wife, uh, so I don't know, man.
Yeah, I think from a just a repentance practice sort of thing. But even the Mormons, that there are things that you have to go confess to a clergy person, a bishop.
Okay, so there is a bit of a
Right.
hierarchy.
Right. There is a hierarchy. Any sexual sin has to be confessed. There are some other things that have to be confessed. But if you just like punch your little sister or tell your sister she was adopted, fibbed and told her sister, that doesn't require a confession in the same way. You could probably handle that in your little girl nighttime prayers.
Uh, so Julian points out the unsettling percentage of step porn, um, I guess in response to what is it called? Incest, the prevalence of incest. I don't know. I honestly don't know how connected those are. I feel like incest is if I had to guess, and I hate to even like put myself in the mind of a person who does incest, but just based on like my understanding of like other forms of child sexual abuse, it's just a lot more about access than anything else. Like I've read that the majority of people who sexually abuse children are actually not pedophiles. They're not particularly or exclusively attracted to children. Children are just easier to abuse than adults, generally speaking. But I don't know. I would imagine why is step porn so common? Well, it does. Being at home, there is a reason for you both to be at home, so it sets up a scenario. It's probably he mentioned like meeting in a bar. Well, then if you're doing a porn, you've got to find a bar or like set up a fake.
So is this like these are like step siblings who are not biologically related? That is just a storyline. Is that what
it's a common storyline? Yeah, and it's step siblings and step parents and step children. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know what that is. I mean, there's also just kind of trends in pornography. There was like stuck porn for a while where people would pretend to be stuck
to one another in a sex act.
No, that's
see, now here's another thing I know nothing about, right? So
I love that for you.
Then why are you blushing? Because I said
because I know, like I'm like
but in this case, creating a situation, this step brother and sister or step parent or whatever.
Yeah, it's also taboo,
Yeah.
I think that's the biggest thing is it's taboo. Something I'm like writing about now is Cartoons Hate Her just wrote about how sex is boring now because it's too socially acceptable. Like you need a little naughtiness in sex to keep it like fun and erotic and exciting. And when like eating ass is like, normal water cooler conversation, like it's not fun and taboo and exciting and what's the word? Edgy, whatever kind of whatever concept you have. And I'm like, well, on the one hand, yeah, of course, like taboo is a very important aspect of human sexuality. Just Dr. Justin Lehmiller did the largest study of American sexual fantasies and grouped the common ones into 5 categories, and taboo was one of those 5 categories. So it's very common, prominent, important. At the same time, I don't like stigmatizing and shaming sex. I think that's been pretty on net bad for humanity pretty clearly. So like, how do you get the good of something being bad without the bad of stigmatizing something good? And what I've come to is I don't think that you need to pretend that a sex act is bad, whether it's eating ass or T&V or whatever. I think one thing that you can do is take what is already shameful and incorporate it into the sex act. And like the most like wholesome way I think is wholesome is I was listening to this book on Neo Tantra, and the author talked about helping couples incorporate whatever emotions were coming up during sex into the sex act. So like she talked about like one of the partners had lost their spouse and incorporating like openly weeping into sex, or like one of the partners is really angry about something. And so like, showing that, just displaying that anger during the sex act and like making it part of the love making. And related it to like, I suffer with pelvic pain, pelvic floor dysfunction and pain with entry sometimes, and how I feel ashamed of that. I feel ashamed of it from like a perspective of like feeling like I'm broken, like dysfunctional. feeling like I'm not giving my partner, a pleasant functional experience, feeling insecure about the aging implications of pain
Mhm.
with entry, like all kinds of things. I feel a lot of shame and fear and self-consciousness, and I want to pretend it's not happening and, um, not even acknowledge it myself versus especially not be like, "Hey, I'm in pain," to my partner. And so, like, my the thing I've been working on is to just bring it in. Just say, "I'm
Mhm.
in pain," and either incorporate it or accept it and
At the
watch
very least,
TV.
acknowledge that's part of this whole experience.
At the very least, just say to myself, "I'm in pain right now." Like, that's the reality of my situation, and, like, I have agency now to say it or change or whatever, but,
Mhm.
like, anyway, I just think that, like, and what made me think about it is Richard Hanania had on these, like, Dutch filmmakers who'd made a movie about trying to convert a right-wing man to left-wing politics by having sex with him. And they tried it with 2 different men and, like, filmed the whole thing. I haven't watched the movie, but I watched the interview. It was with the filmmaker and the performer. One of the performers, the right-wing people weren't didn't come on the interview, besides Richard, but he wasn't in the film. So anyway, at one point, the woman talked about, like, how she finds it odd that heterosexual women wouldn't have sex with misogynistic men. She's like, "If you like men, you you have to like misogyny. It's part of the package." And I thought, "Huh, that's such an interesting thing to say." But I think that that's true to an extent that we all are misogynistic because misogyny is in the air we breathe, it's the water we drink, it's our default. We all grow up in a stew of misogyny. We have to spend a lifetime like seeing it, addressing it, and dismantling it. So like, yeah, we're going to bring misogyny into the bedroom. We're going to bring everything that is part of us and to like pretend it's not happening or exile it. I mean, that's one way to do things, but like you can make sex taboo again just by bringing in what's already there and taboo. How did I get on this?
Well, but see, the interesting thing, I think, it was a reference to porn and step families being
Yeah,
a theme in that. But I does it have to be? I mean, maybe for me, it is taboo just because it was taboo, right?
right.
Again, I've only had 2 sexual partners in my life. And so when I had the first one was when I was a virgin and got married. And the second one was I had made a serious decision because I knew I was Mormon, that I was leaving the church, and I knew I still have one kid who was in the church. So I knew that deciding to be with Alan, my husband now, who was not my husband at the time, deciding to have sex outside of marriage with Alan meant that I was closing a door. So if my child was going to be in the church and stay in the church and get married in the Mormon temple, I was making a a very serious decision because that would have slammed the door to participating in her life in that way. And so maybe that is taboo enough. I would say I'm pretty mainstream, old school. I'm I wouldn't I'd probably say in some ways I'm a little prudish, right? I'm not like porn makes me uncomfortable. I enjoy sex, but I'm not gonna go.
You don't have an
No,
OnlyFans.
pardon me?
You don't have an OnlyFans.
No, no. Well, that's because. too many wrinkles and extra rounds. But no, I
Disagree.
mean, like, but it's just that for me, and I think it can be that way, right? It's like everything. We need to feel comfortable and satisfied where we need to feel comfortable and satisfied. So having someone push us to participate in sex in a way that maybe they're interested in exploring, but if it's uncomfortable for us, I don't think I mean, obviously you should talk about it, right? But and but I think that it needs to be something that taboo can be different for different people. And excitement. So for example, when my husband and I first got together, we lived on a little island with bicycles. That's how you got around. And the other day he said to me something about bicycling on over in the morning because we had our own places, we had our own kids, and our own houses. And so we would do that. We would get up really early before our kids got up for school and we'd bicycle on over. Well, I usually went to his house, but it didn't matter either way. We'd take our clothes off and slip into the bed. And that was lots of fun. It was a little sneaky. It was, you didn't want people to notice. It was a small island, a lot of nosy people. Um, yeah. So, that has become a little fun reference sometimes, and for me, that was like taboo enough. Yeah. So,
I love that. That's so sweet and wholesome. I love that you use the word discomfort, and I think that's actually perfect because that's it. Like, what is excitement? It's discomfort. It's things could go wrong. If there's no chance of, like, things going differently than you expect or want, then that's predictable. It's the opposite of exciting. What did Julian say?
oh,
Any Victorians
Victoria's
in
is excited about the bicycle.
I love it, love it. Um, yeah, I think that that's it, and so discomfort and therefore excitement can take so many different forms. It could be doing a thing that you're, nervous to do, like a sex act, or I mean, even just like, how long can I stay in this, you know, how many squats can I do? Let me challenge myself. I don't know. I don't know how it's gonna go. I think there's so many ways to add discomfort, taboo, excitement, unpredictability into sex that don't involve pretending as if sex is something shameful in and of itself.
Yeah.
I just
And
don't
I
think
don't
it
think
is.
regardless of what activities you enjoy participating in, that none of it should be shameful as long as you and your partner are consenting, right?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think it needs to be shameful, but, like, I don't know. You can make it like, maybe you have, like, I don't even know. Maybe you moralize around health and you do, like, food play, and it's like, "Ooh, we're being so bad, all these calories." I don't, like, whatever you wanna do, you can find those edges, but I don't think we need to pretend that, like, 2 people getting naked and rubbing genitals together is, like, necessarily anything, good, bad. It's not, it doesn't have an inherent moral valence. It's what you make it.
Hmm.
Okay? This
So
is
we need someone
AMA.
to
We're
tell
not
the
getting
awkward pause so we can change topics.
Um, I appreciate Julian making the reference to my post about
Yeah.
my rant about porn being fine, or not fine, but political, fundamentally political, like how we define it.
Well, the
I
way
think
the Supreme Court is, I can't define it, but I know it when I see it.
there's
Kennedy.
yeah, the Miller test.
But yeah, and I would say, like, I actually was hoping we didn't talk about that actually, because I know how uncomfortable it makes me.
Be more.
Pardon me?
Tell me more if you feel
Oh,
comfortable talking about it at
I
all.
think, because it feels like, and I think with a lot of people, it feels like cheating, you know. And it's hard for me to know, is that cultural? Is it uh age? Is it, what is it that makes me feel that way? Not if people don't feel that way in every, yes, Supreme Court justice.
Hmm.
Um yeah, it not in some relationships that it's completely amoral. I'm not amoral.
Yeah,
Yeah, amoral. It's not, it doesn't have a moral,
it's morally neutral.
it's morally neutral, right? But I don't think I feel that way about it. But sure, I don't feel that way about it. I mean, I think my feelings have evolved, but it's not like I don't even think about, oh, I want to do that, watch porn myself.
I grew up really anti. I remember I had a friend who I met at an abstinence retreat in high school. We're still friends. She's incredible. She's married to a wonderful woman. Um,
Our life has changed too, because when they said abstinence, they didn't mean gay abstinence. They meant just abstinence. Great.
she took it very literally. Don't have sex with men. Okay. Um, and she was she got me onto like Bust and Bitch magazine and was into punk rock and just is and remains infinitely cooler than me. And she was like, "Yeah, it seems like porn is fine." And I remember I was in college and like having an email debate with her about why, why porn is bad. And I don't remember what I said at the time, but what I remember thinking was what the church told me, which is
Yeah.
that pornography, well, technically it was a sin. If I or anybody else even imagined, like thought about having sex with, fantasized about having sex with someone who wasn't our husband, our spouse, was as bad as having done it. So,
So obviously porn is going to be worse than just having a little heart palpitation over that cute boy that sits next to you in 8th grade.
right, right. So there was that aspect, but the greater emphasis was on men will look at these women and that male sexual desire is this finite resource, and the more that goes into porn, the less that is available to you. And that he'll look at these, you know, 18-year-old women with perfect bodies, and then when he looks at you, you'll be disgusting in comparison to these women. And so you must
Well,
guard your husband's eyes and the sanctity of your marriage from this threat at all costs. And I mean, it made sense to me. I didn't know anything about male sexual desire or, I mean, yeah, if I like saw pictures of gourmet meals all the time and then like the only thing available to me at home is hamburger helper, I'd probably be less satisfied too. I don't know. I believed that because it made sense to me and because I was so afraid. I was so
mhm.
afraid of being a disappointment to my husband, of my body not being attractive enough, of me not being able to turn him on, of him wanting other women. Uh, and I was a real asshole to my husband about it. Like he would look at porn and I would get like super mad and
Yeah.
like shame him about it and we would have fights about it. And it's like, oh my God, that was so what a waste of everybody's time and energy. Yes, as
Libido is a
Julian
renewable
said,
resource.
yeah, the male libido is not scarce. I mean, it is now, actually, weirdly, and everybody wants to blame porn, but that's a different
I
discussion.
you know, I So I have so again, there are, I would say, you know me, I am as politically liberal as a person can get. However, I have lived my life very personally conservatively, and I still I pretty much do. I'm just, it's not my personality. And so I wasn't like, even like more sexually explicit scenes in TV shows that I don't have a moral problem with watching, I don't think is bad or whatever. It still makes me feel a little uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And so I might fast forward and stuff. I don't think it's immoral. I don't think sex work is immoral. I don't think people who participate in pornography either as a performer or as the viewer part, I'm still coming around to, but I don't I don't really get it for myself. And so I do still think I have some, and it's probably moral, probably partly personality. I don't know. But I had a good friend she was a 16-year-old teen mom, and she participated in movies and magazine, print pornography, and I don't remember feeling like judgment around that and her. Whereas that's different, like a public policy and thing is different from my own personal conduct. And I've always sort of had this line, and it's not because I think it's wrong particularly, it's just not, I don't know. My mom was not a walk through the house naked kind of mom. So maybe I would feel differently if I'd had that kind of household. I don't know.
That's so interesting, yeah. My mom was, definitely. But I was still super anti-porn.
Yeah. Well, I think are some people who argue that sex work and pornography victimizes women.
Sure, yeah.
And there obviously are groups of feminists who are anti-porn, and then there are groups of feminists who are empower think women should be empowered in that way. And I think but there are women who come to those things on both sides, right? There are men who use pornography as a weapon against the women in their lives, like you said, that they won't think you're attractive enough or whatever. And there are men who don't. So, I mean, it's like anything, alcohol, smoking pot, pornography, whatever. All these things can be used in a way that is hurtful to other people or to yourself, or it can be not at all that way.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I feel. That's what I think about it. I wonder, like, I'm gonna make an analogy, and I want you to tell me, like, if it fits. Can it feel a strong sense of revulsion when people don't feel any responsibility to, like, toward the wider world? Like, people who don't have jobs or, like, volunteer or, like, who just have a really, yeah, who don't feel like, "Okay, I have been given whatever I've been given, and I have a responsibility to, like, use that to the benefit of humanity in some way." Could Doesn't need to be huge, I'm not saying everybody has to be Gandhi, but, like, no sense of responsibility to, like, do their part, whatever their part looks like and is. And I think that that's wrong. Like, they're not, that sense of responsibility is just aesthetic. It's just the way I feel, and the way
Mhm.
I feel isn't any objectively better or truer or more important than the way they feel. But I still feel it.
Yeah.
Do you feel like that's analogous to how you feel about, like, pornography?
Well, so maybe somewhat. Although I wouldn't say that. I would say that you probably have a much stronger feeling about this sort of
Yeah.
laziness that people aren't contributing
Yeah.
than I do about. I mean, because I can, it's not something that I think about, or it's not involved in my life. But I do think
Speak
that I have changed my feelings about it over time, and that has to do, I think, with the church part of my life that's not there anymore.
I think as well, I'm probably just more of a moralizer than you are generally. Maybe. I don't know. I mean, you get your hackles up about things from, I would say, a moral perspective.
Oh, yeah, that's
Yeah.
why we're friends. But
Yeah.
I don't see it. I don't see as many things quite as black and white as I used to. And I would say that on that issue, maybe that was not a great enough example for you, because just of having our conversations, I know that you feel like if if you don't have a job, you should be doing something with your day,
Yeah.
right? That's useful.
Yeah.
And it's not about earning money. It's about you you've been given 24 hours in a day. That's all we all have, and you should be doing something useful with your 24 hours a day.
Whatever. Like if what you've given is just enough to survive, whether in terms of disability, money, time, talent, whatever, then just survive. I'm not asking you to do stuff with stuff you don't have. But if you have extra,
Mhm.
some of
But
it could
right,
probably go
but
to
I
other
don't
people.
think but I think that I don't think what I mean by that is that you think everyone should be changing the world, but
Right.
everyone
No.
should be doing their part for living their life. So if
And their
all
part
you
is different.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. If you're wealthy and influential and you do nothing but party all day,
That's gross.
yeah. If you
It
have
feels gross to me.
yeah. Yeah.
And there's plenty of reasons to feel grossed out by pornography, for sure. I'm grossed out by pornography on a regular basis, but
Because it's not like, like we said, right? There is a line, and I think that anything, e especially anything that feels like fetishism, like, I'm particularly susceptible to that notion that Asian women are submissive and laugh, "Hee hee hee," kind of. I don't like that. I don't like being in Asian countries with my white husband. Honestly, because there is an assumption that Asian women marry are in relationship with gross men, who my husband is not gross, but it's so that they can have a passport and appliances, and the man can have someone to clean his house and have sex. So I anything that fetishizes Asian women, anything that is like I probably would say that anything that is sadistic would be, or harmful looking, or that victimizes people, all that stuff I would say is not healthy. I just can't imagine in my brain that that is healthy or safe or good. So maybe it's similar, because I do have some lines like that where, and I don't, obviously not everybody feels that way. And not everyone who participates in that sort of entertainment, it's entertainment, right? They're not really being they don't feel victimized, they're doing something by choice and all that. But that, I think for me, it would be like, no.
I think that that makes sense. And it's it's hard to avoid like all kinds of gross stuff, unfortunately. And I would just point out that for a lot of people, consensual play around difficult experiences is really healing.
Mm-hmm.
So there are women who play act being fetishized as a way to like reclaim agency and heal
Mm-hmm.
from the harm of fetishization done to them unconsensually. But you don't have to watch it. You know?
Right, exactly. But it is hard. I think once eh, let's use TikTok algorithms as an example, right? Once you open a door, you can't always control the things that come in through the door. And so
Yeah.
you could be exposed to things, especially with the digital world, and that's how we consume these things, is when she travels in Asia, your husband must be very tall. Who's
She's a very tall writer.
Oh, I see. Yes. Um, so yeah, I think that it's like that. So now I look at one Halara dress ad and then every other thing is another place to buy, an athletic Halara dress, or every other thing is whatever the algorithm does. And so it can be, you get exposed to things you don't want to just because it's all out there.
Now, it's taken me a while to sorry, to get into TikTok because I like weird stuff, but it takes me, like, so far down these weird, interests that are just beyond where I'm comfortable, and I'm like, "Ooh, how did I get here?" I'm
You can
starting to
You kinda have to, so for me, I have to reset. So, like, I might be really interested in, like, these period dramas, and then all I get is, clip shows, and that's boring, and then I get down another rabbit hole, and, right now I'm not enjoying my algorithm, it's boring. So I have to maybe do a search that is more provocative so I get better content showing up.
Yeah, and it's like, how do you game that's where I'm at right now, is how do I game these algorithms in a way that is effective and also that I can live with myself? I don't wanna I don't want to be part of the problem more than I have to be.
Mhm.
It's difficult. There's this person named Danny who I think his handle is Danny is in your phone, and he's gearing up to get surgery, and he's so funny. I love it. He has a really funny personality, and also he's very masculine presenting except for these huge boobs. And he's like he's gonna get them off, so he's just, you know, flinging them around and showing them off, like, getting all the comedy he juice out of squeezing all the comedy juice out of these
Yeah.
bazingas that he can while they're still around. He dressed as, um, big-tittied Gandalf, like, wore a Gandalf outfit and, like
Ah.
I'm just like, I need this is the kind of thing I need more of, algorithm. Feed me more hilarious trans people, I guess. I don't even know, like, that's the thing that's hard is, like, what chop it up and, like, okay, it's funny and it's about gender, okay. But what other aspects of this explain why it's so delightful to me?
Well, because boobs flying around, that's funny.
Discordant things, huge boobs on a masculine presenting
Yeah.
person.
I don't know, but I have had women friends who just use it as a bit. They're giant boobs, entertainers, like singers, or I have the friend who did porn when she was a young mom. She was a wonderful singer, and but it was her shows were very campy, and so that was a big part of her persona, and her campiness, and her bit was her
I love
giant
that.
boobs.
I love that. I want to I probably will do this, but it's mostly just poverty and laziness stopping me, but I want to do myself up like a MAGA person. Um, just look extremely MAGA coded, but change nothing else about myself. Just like say exactly what I already say and talk about the things that I talk about. But I just feel like that discordance between what I look like and what I'm saying would be very funny.
I'm sorry, I don't understand that because, we live in Alabama. There are
Oh, this is just for the internet.
no, but what I mean by that is there are plenty of women who look like you who voted for Trump.
No, I'm saying I would style myself more MAGA, like pearls and like
Oh, I
twin
see, I see.
sets, like curl my hair, like
I
tease
see.
it.
I see.
Yeah.
I think you should go for it. It's mostly time. I don't think it's
Yeah, probably. You teasing your hair is free. I have fake pearls. Yeah. Yeah, it's
yeah.
time.
Yeah, it's time. It's time, definitely. No, I love that. I love the political comedy, especially there's a couple of Southern guys who are really left wing, and if you met them anywhere, one's
Pretty Crowder.
Trey Crowder, but then there's a guy who lives in Alabama, and his little icon is like a strawberry with big eyes, and I don't know if he also does stand up like Trey Crowder, but it's so like the cognitive dissonance like is just I mean it's 90% of the humor to me, but
Yeah.
I'm not from the South. So in my view, everyone who has a thick country accent, but that's not fair. It's really not fair that I make
No.
those assumptions about people. And so it's been good that I've lived in the South and realized that isn't those assumptions aren't always true. Statistically, they're still true, but they're not always true.
Yeah, it is that discordance between the thick Southern accent and the left wing views. It is funny. I like it. I love my boyfriend's accent and like the discordance between what he says and the way he speaks and the way he acts. Like he's just the best of all worlds.
Oh, I'm gonna
He's
have to really listen because
it's not thick. It's not
no, I
thick.
was gonna say it didn't strike me. I mean, I've talked to Rob a lot of times, and it didn't strike me. So now I have to listen for that.
But he's just speaking feminism with the drawl, and I love
Yeah.
it. And he opens doors for me, but like loves that I'm a feminist. And
So how
yeah,
do you feel about doors being opened?
I love a chivalry. I am so into chivalry. I think it's great.
I spent a lot of doors being that woman who I can open the door by myself, blah blah blah. I lot of years. But then I got to the point where I figured, okay, whoever gets the door first just opens the door.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
now that people offer me their seat on the, airport shuttle because my hair is gray, I just say thank you.
I think that's
Because
great.
I've come to believe that most men are not opening the door because they don't think I'm incapable. They're opening the door
Yeah,
because they were taught to be polite. And yeah, some politeness is rooted in sexism and misogyny. But I think that if it's rooted in that, that's not that poor guy's fault whose mama just taught him to open the door for people. Right? I mean, he doesn't feel that way necessarily. He's not. It's just a demonstration of politeness. So I try to give people a break.
I love that. Yeah, yeah. And I think like one of the things that Anne Helen Peterson wrote in the feminist exhaustion piece that I did not like was a marriage where labor is not divided evenly is not feminist. And I just could not agree with that any less. I think he likes opening the door for me. I like doing our dishes. I don't I don't want to like steal valor and say like I do more of the housework cuz he does a lot of it, but um I do a lot of the like keeping up with what needs to be done. Uh and I don't know, going back to like if you're dividing housework equally,
No, Julian, you're right. Just open the door for anybody
yeah,
because it's nice. Yeah.
it is nice. And also but also he when we go to his car, cuz we only have his, he walks around and opens the door for me like just to be a gentleman and I love that. And yeah, if I were like you have to do exactly half the housework and each of us are always going to open our own doors because of feminism, then again, I'm still letting the patriarchy decide what my life looks like.
Mhm.
And I don't know.
Well, it can't go to 50-50 because if it goes to 50-50, I'm not doing my share, and then I'd have to work harder. And I don't But, I do seriously, though, I used to say, that I love being a woman. I am a very heterosexual woman. I've always been attracted to men. I remember having crushes on boys in kindergarten, so I'm always been a straight woman, but I always used to say I would have been a better husband than a wife because I've always liked to work. I didn't like to do housework, all the things. And I was much more uh, likely to get, you know, it so um, immersed in work that I'd forget, to pick up kids from school or do all the things that we traditionally blame dads for and husbands for doing, and I was that, so I used to always joke I would have made a better husband than a wife, and still probably true because there's still so many house kinds of things that I don't like to do, and I love to work, I've always loved to work, um, but that's, I think, more of a just a personality trait. I
And
feel
that's go ahead.
Oh, I just feel badly for women who have that personality, but who have suppressed that because of society. That's the real sadness, I think.
And men who would like to stay home and take care of kids and do housework and, don't do it cuz that then their
Yeah.
penises will fall off. It's yeah, I thought sometimes, and I definitely thought about it when I was reading Anne Helen Peterson's piece about why don't I'm a feminist, but I don't describe Sex and the State or like my writing as feminist. I mean, it is, but that's not the word I use. I use like I write about gender. And I think it's because there's an implication when you say feminist that you're advocating for women. And I don't feel like I am. I feel like I'm advocating for everyone
Mhm.
against sexism, against the harms of gender. Um,
And you do raise a lot of topics where you talk about the negative impact that those policies or cultural ways that we do things are negatively impacting men
yeah,
versus just saying how things negatively impact women. So
yeah.
what were the other types of feminism? Because I think I cut you off 40 minutes ago.
I I found it difficult to remember what they were because I found myself in each of the quadrants and I feel like that's true of everybody. Like
Mhm.
everyone is finds themselves in all of these quadrants because sometimes we hew sometimes we disagree about what is the patriarchy and what does it mean to you know uphold it or to challenge it. And then even when we agree on what it is, sometimes we uphold it, and sometimes we don't, violate these norms, and it's just very, yeah. So I didn't fully understand it, and I wasn't sure it was the most helpful way to look at the question, but I did largely agree that, like, I think one of the challenges of feminism now is that, like, what's the goal? Like, okay, s- I've always, not always, but I generally define feminism as the movement against sexism. But, like, why is it feminism and not masculinism? Um,
Well, I mean, so if you look back over time, right? The initial waves of feminism, right, to get the right to vote. Are you laughing at Julian's comment?
yeah.
For some men, that's the only way they're going to get their penis clean, is to throw the washing. Some men are just slow. I guess women too, but so no, I think that when we're talking about a right to vote, a right to own property, a right to have your own money, all those things, that's feminism. When it comes to the time when I grew up, where um we're just hoping to get equal pay. I mean, I was alive when women couldn't own property, couldn't have credit cards, couldn't have bank accounts. So all that to me is feminine, should have been feminism, and there was a reason for feminism. I think we have all the legal protections, right? There are no real laws that say men and women aren't equal. We don't ever have the Equal Rights Amendment, of course. But I mean, I have the right to vote. I can own property. I y- w- Companies can be sued for not paying, for discriminating in pay. So what is it now that a feminist would be supporting, and why aren't we just being proponents of everyone should be treated well? And now we have to flip the other side, where we're aware, as a lot of your writing is, the negative impact that some of these things have had on men, and how those negative impacts negatively affect all of us. So I don't know that feminism, I mean, I think there was a reason to the exclusion of men for a long, long time, because men had everything. So,
No, I think yeah. You could see, like, women are disadvantaged in terms of, like, the literal laws on the books, um, in a way that, like, I think abortion is the big um, exception, where there
yeah.
these are laws on the books that explicitly disadvantage women, but most of it is norms, like untested rape kits. Like, there's no law that prevents police from sending
Mm.
those rape kits off to get tested. They just don't. It's just not a norm for them to do it or to be held accountable for making sure it gets done. Um, and yeah, those norms work both ways. Like, they disadvantage women and men in different ways. So I don't know. Like, and I hate to be like, what's the word? Um, pedantic. Like, to make too much of that feminism is points to a particular gender, but it does, and I don't know. I think, okay, well then, so, legal equality pretty much accomplished. Well, what's next? And you could say power,
Yeah.
equality in power. You could say equality in wealth or resources. Um, but I'm not sure, like, that is my goal, because if it if everybody's better off, however you want to measure it,
Mhm.
uh, with an unequal distribution of power, people being represented in anything, whether it's power or, I guess, whatever, that's not a very strong value to me. I think I don't like sexism, probably on like a moral, like, disgust basis, but also because sexism is inefficient. Like, it's dumb. It gets in the way of the other things that I would want. Um,
So, I if I'm putting words in your mouth, just tell me to shut up. But so I've been in lots of board rooms or, executive meetings where there weren't where I might and I was not the executive. So I was visiting, like making a presentation or helping out, or I don't know what I was doing. But I mean, I've not ever been a C-suite person, but I've been in meetings with C-suites and board of directors. And often I'm the only woman in the room. And my sense is that that wouldn't bother you if the organization was behaving in a moral way and people within the organization was benefiting fairly from the organization. The actual distribution, why aren't there 50% of these people women, wouldn't bother you, just as an empirical calculation of what should be gender representation in organizations. And like I said, if I'm putting words in your mouth, you just tell me.
no, I don't think you're misconstruing me at all. I think that's exactly right. Or another way to put it would be, okay, you've got a boardroom, and it could either be perfectly 50% male, 50% female, or it can be as a whole 10% more effective. Like, I would always go for more effective
Mhm.
over, to me, like, the shittiness of the gender discrepancy is that it has not been effective. It's not been efficient. Like, more smarter, more qualified women have been excluded, or if not excluded, like, not encouraged or whatever, kept out through sexism, and it's made everybody poorer. And I hate that.
Mhm.
And so if you said, well, okay, we can correct the sexes, or we can correct the gender balance, but we'd have to make everybody poor, I'd be like, absolutely not. I don't want to do that. So then, if, like, gender equality is not your highest goal, what is feminism for? Like, I still think it's against sexism, but, like,
Right, but you
that's
don't
always,
want women to just behave in corporate America and in capitalism the way men do and still make people poorer, have less access to housing, all the things that men can do. That in itself is immoral. It's not helpful. Just if you have women go in there, if women being part of that organization brings representation and compassion or empathy or efficiency or whatever, so that people in general are better off, then it makes sense. But if they're just going to go in there and behave as men have behaved for the same capitalist objectives, then it doesn't matter who's on the board.
totally,
Yeah.
and it that makes assumptions about men and women being so different that I think aren't necessarily based in reality. Like, I think the kind of person who gets on a board is kind of the same person, whether they have a penis or a vagina. Like, the things that qualify you and motivate you to get there, I don't know that they're really that different, depending on your genital configuration, generally speaking. So, yeah, I don't think the configuration matters as much as, like, how does it come about? Does it come about naturally, or does it come about, and obviously, like, naturally, what does that mean? But whatever, you know, to what extent does sexism dictate the gender makeup of a board is way more important to me than what the board ends up looking like.
But I would say, Julian, you make a good point. And whether it's women or people of color, I think that the more diverse that the people in the room are,
Yeah.
the more likely it is that they're a different piece of our society will be represented, and a viewpoint will be represented in a way that if everyone looks the same, it's not.
No, for sure. No, I agree
Yeah.
with that. Yeah. But yeah, that gave me a real think about like, okay, what is feminism for in
Yeah.
2025? Like, what's the goal? Because we kind of need to get on the same page about it. Like we said, like that change happens in community. Like we have to organize, and it's hard to organize around a goal that's not shared and understood. And I also think it's hard to organize around an anti-goal. I think to say like, let's organize against sexism is not quite as useful or motivating or clarifying as to be for something. Like it's it's hard to know, first of all. Like, it's easy to see, like, this board is 30% female, it's 50% female, it's 0% female. It's hard to know why. Why is it that level of female? Is it because of sexism? Is it because of natural ability? Is it,
Mhm.
you know, um, so I think these are some challenges that we face going forward.
You're right, Sam, about potential and sexism and how we lose out on potential if we prevent access for half the population. Yeah, it's an interesting thing about the evolution of feminism over time and what it means. And I think, generally that's one of our challenges. Not I'm not wouldn't say a party person per se, but the left and Democrats in particular, because we have a two-party system, is we're we're not articulating the what is everybody for and coalescing around the same message. And there's all the things we want to fight, and there are lots and lots of them, right? And it's not it's not creating a sense of community that's making something happen for us. And so it's diluted that to the point where now here we are. And for it looks like it's going to be this way, you know, for probably more than one election cycle, which is is scary.
I think our closest thing has been abundance, but I think even abundance, like, it's kind of dry and soulless in a way that what the right, like a vision of a positive future on the right, like, is less so. Like, you get up and your robot butler, brings your green flying car around to you, and it's like, that's cool, but, like, it doesn't it doesn't get you in the heart like the trad nuclear family, and the man goes to his factory job, and the woman is wearing her beautiful bonnet and takes care of her beautiful, healthy white children.
You can make a 30-second spot about that. It's much harder to make a 30-second spot about why everyone deserves something or has something, right? And then what do you do if people are um inherently want people to look like them? Then how do you even convey that message? Because as soon as you put people who don't look like them in a 30-second spot, there is going to be this core group of people who are turned off by that. And so it, I don't know. I don't know who we need. I'm trying to think of some really great political, James Carville or something. But James Carville is screaming that we've, you know, fucked it up and haven't done. Plus, he's like super, super old, and so maybe that's not.
Probably we need to.
He's not the voice anymore. I don't know.
Probably not. Yeah. Yeah, I think a positive vision of a of a future, of a shared, like, vision of a positive future. There's definitely, I think, feminism, the left, the Democratic Party, like, we have luxury gay space communism. Um But beyond that, how do you make that real? How do you make that concrete? I don't know. Well, we'll figure it out in the next week and come back to
Okay.
you with solutions. So tune in. Next, we're going to be doing this every Wednesday. We're going to have more guests, God willing, and the creek don't rise. If you want to be a guest, message us or
Yeah.
me or you. Make it known. If you want us to have somebody else on, let us know. If you can
know
introduce
someone
us,
interesting.
all the better. Otherwise, keep it feminist, whatever that means to you. Um, have an amazing week. Thank you for
Thank
hanging
you
out with
so much
us.
for joining. We really
We really
appreciate it.
appreciate it. And we'll see you guys next week. Good night.
Bye.